If you know that you've flown, nice climb, all of a sudden you're climbing very well, and I've lost it, at least do another test check around. Use thermal assist on your instruments. If you don't have it, put it, have it. Thermal assist can help you a lot. It can show you that you were going this way, but a moment before, it was really climbing there. So turn back into the track of where you've been climbing, into the wind again, and then find the thermal again. But generally, thermals are all different. Okay?
Yeah.
You can't say a thermal is just like this or it's like that. Sometimes thermals are shitty bubbles where you just got something and then there's nothing. And some days we can make, in Argentina at the World Championships, hey, we were making 55-kilometer tasks in days you would think it's impossible to even glide 5 kilometers with one, and beep, beep, and just little broken up bubbles and you can use them. So sometimes you have to use everything you have. Sometimes you have got some success and it's strong. Remember, you have to keep a remembrance of like, okay, so on my very first thermal to the top, I had a 3 or a 4 up. So after that, I'm going to not satisfy myself because the day's getting better to have less than 2s or 3s up. Don't ignore any lift, but at least check it with a speed bar. If you're on a glide and staying with the company is more important, there are a lot of these factors together. But using a thermal that's good all the way to the top is very important. Don't leave good thermals to think, okay, I'm good with this, I'm going now. That's a mistake.
Yeah. And the second question was, as I have said, this was my first comment, the Kegel juggling and the safety. How do you manage there? For example, the people in front of you are obviously falling down out of the thermal. Do you keep going, or do you take a sharp turn, or do you try to use your senses? How do you manage?
Good question. Victoria, sorry I mentioned your name again, but that's because you're the most beautiful girl in this part of Khrushchevo. No, it's because you're curious and that you've come and asked me that, and you've said, oh, I'm not comfortable flying around other people. You have to get comfortable with flying around other people if you want to be good at this competition flying. You have to be completely relaxed that there are people with 1 meter from you, their wingtip and your wingtip, and passing each other like this. But there's a level of acceptance that's courteous and nice, and there's the aggressive flying assholes who are there. Yesterday morning, I had to go to a guy who was, I finally saw who he was, and whatever, I won't identify him, but I had to go to him and I had to say to him, hey guy, I finally see who you are. I didn't even know who he was. He was hidden behind all his stuff there. And I said, listen, the day before, day 1, you were flying extremely aggressively around me. When you see a white magus, stay away. And I don't like to be unpleasant with people, but sometimes you have to say it to people because sometimes they think, and he's barked back at me and he said, yeah, you haven't flown, or come and fly PWCs. I was surprised. Last year I started to fly a few more PWCs because I didn't like the top end competitions. One of the points I've made on my phone is which competitions are right for you guys to fly. Okay, where are you at? Which should you register for and which should you not? Because I'm sure it's a question in your mind. You were saying you're flying fun competitions and really like light level competitions. I like all competitions. And last year I was actually surprised that in PWCs and high end competitions, the guys are actually probably flying better than in this style of competition. Because here you've got every kind of level of person, and you've got the young, some of you in the room here who are just so keen, and then, oh fuck, I didn't realize I was so close to that guy in the thermal and stuff like that. So, to answer your question, there should be a kind of zen that forms itself in thermals. Don't cut people off, but be prepared to go on the outside of people if you need to. I like to indicate. I like to show my hand to say I'm going this way, or I can flag someone and show them. But avoid a mid-air collision by putting your ego a little bit in your pocket and just missing people. Okay? But that said, when the thermal is a bit more spread out, and you see that some guys are going up higher, you want to drift over that way in the next turn. So that's important. We have one very crazy Bulgarian who's also a very good pilot. His name's Yasin. And Yasin flies with this kind of hook turn on any glider he flies. He flies along, he finds some lifter, he hook turns it. I thought, what the fuck is that guy doing? He's completely crazy. And I've started to adopt that too, and it's working quite well. That when you are flying along and suddenly the lift is really good, turn much tighter than you think you need to. And then carry on with the outside hand.
Look first.
Of course you look first. Of course.
How many people have just gone black and go,
So, thank you very much, Tim. That's a very valid and very, very safe thing that you've said there. Guys, you must look around you. Nobody is right and wrong when there's two reserves thrown and people hurt themselves and hit the ground because they're mid-air or their bodies hit each other. And in this very place in Khrushchev, the World Championships, 2 people died. One was in the competition, one was not. And they collided with a terrible, unforgivable accident, which you can't say you were right, you were wrong. It's always like in a car accident. If you're ever in a car accident, it's never your fault. It's always the other person's, right? Here, we're not talking about anything. I love the fact that our competitions today are going through without even a reserve thrown in the whole competition. That there isn't like in the past where guys would be going off to hospital and the Isle of Man TT killed 4 people last year. It's for insane people. We are not insane. We are doing something which is today really nice, really safe, and really beautiful to be doing. But let's do it safely. So look around you before you turn. And if you are thermaling, you want to be thermaling like this, looking around you where you're going. You want to be looking down, you want to be looking to your right, and you want to be looking up and down. All of a sudden, some guys that were just above you, they've broken away, and you're not looking at them because you're looking down, you're looking around you at this level. The eyes have also got to be up here in the head. You've got to look, oh shit, those guys who broke away, are they really climbing all of a sudden? Don't be an idiot. Go a little bit more that way. You found it. Okay. I think we're getting a little bit long on the talk here. Eh?
Do you want to just talk about start gaggle etiquette? And because I think that's what he was asking in that first gaggle, if the people he's following drop out of the thermal, should he tighten to stay in it, or should he follow the gaggle and be polite?
Because that's another big question. Is
it depends on how much room you've got. Yeah, and how much time. You know, if
it's time, but that's
this
like
is
maybe we can talk about that as new people.
It's a very valid one.
Understand, like it's not all about turning tightly in the start gaggle.
2 to 3 minutes before. Okay, so I'll tell you my basic timings where it comes to it. I mean, 15 minutes before the task, I'm starting to get really conscious of which position I am, where I am, how close I am to the cylinder. I'm starting to look at where the cylinder line is and all that kind of thing. 10 minutes before, I'm starting to get highly tuned. And 2 to 3 or 4 minutes before, you want to think about your exact position and how it's going to work. Okay? Now, there's no use if you've got to go into a cylinder and you're right near it, that a minute before, your instruments sometimes will tell you 30 seconds to go, 1 minute to go, or 1 minute to go, 30 seconds to go, my navigator does, and time to go. On the XE track, it's got 2 numbers, the actual time to go and the time in red underneath, which is how long before you have to start going to, how far you are from that cylinder, all that kind of thing. But you have to be very conscious of how big the cylinder is, where the cylinder is, how you're going to go through the cylinder, and where you're going to be with the other guys, okay? So to answer your question, you want to, sometimes everybody before the start is right up at cloud base, but they're all turning in a -1. Because everybody else is left, and they're all going down. Remember, in our competition, it doesn't matter how fast you make it across the line, it's the position that you go in. If you are first, you are first. So you don't have to try and be really, really fast, but find your position at the start to be a good position. Okay? When your instrument says time to go, you ask yourself also, we're talking about instruments, we're also not talking about ourselves, we have to make our own judgments about when to go through the cylinder. If you go 1 second too early through the start and you think, great, but it hasn't gone because you were 1 second too early, you may as well turn around, go back, lose 1 minute, and there goes everybody away from you. You should have stayed with that extra. So sometimes you have to do that last turn before, sometimes you are good to go before, sometimes the cylinder is so big that you can run parallel with it and then go. You guys probably more tuned into this kind of thing. I'm not that great at these things. I'm not the top pro at exactly how to have the finesse before the start. Do you want to make some comments, you guys?
I think you've covered it, yeah. The speed to start is a great tool.
Don't be right on the cylinder. You don't want to be less than 100 meters or 200 meters from the cylinder, 300-400 meters from. If you are 3 kilometers from the start and there's 3 minutes to go, you're not going to get through the right time because you're going to be going at 60 k's an hour, which means you are losing height. And by the time you go through that, The other guys who were close there and a little bit higher than you, they're in a much better position. So be relatively close to the cylinder line before the start and watch that time. Watch the time that's left. Watch it again and again. Just before the start is probably the most difficult, technical, and important part of the start of the whole race, right? You agree, guys?
Yeah, set yourself up.
Set yourself up. Set yourself up in the right position. Thermaling with others and staying with others. If you are just before the start, and don't be a sheep here, because if others all want to kind of go in a direction, but you were in perfectly good stuff, you might find yourself all alone going through the start, much 300-400 meters above everybody else. Man, you could go for it. And you could press the bar harder. Don't worry, on your B glider or your C glider, the rest are going to catch you for sure. But at least you're going to have a good start. So,
Coming from a sailing background, the start was everything. And coming across the paragliding, I've had to teach myself that when the start time starts, I always wanted to leave to start to cross the line.
mm-hmm.
But the reality is, you don't get any extra points for starting 1 second late, or versus
a minute
late.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, as soon as the start gate opens, the decision is not to cross the starting line. The decision is actually, what would I do along the task? If I'm in a good climb, I stay in the climb. I don't cross the line. And that's something I've had to teach myself, because in sailing, you just
You're two-dimensional, and here we are three-dimensional.
Absolutely.
So there's that a big thing. Although the start is gone, it doesn't mean that's the firing line. Bang, you have to go.
Yeah.
No, if you're in good climb, carry on in a good climb, and take it. You might find that in the PWCs, it's not because the start is open and you're right at it that everyone in the PWC is going. No, if they've suddenly just found, you do what the others are doing. Try and stay with company, as I say, along the route. That's really important.
I noticed one thing. I just have a few starts that I was in a good position until now,
Good.
so I don't have too much experience.
Good.
But the 2 or 3
Good.
few times I got it, with better gliders, with other people and better guys, can be very deceiving, because now you really explain. They keep turning around in -1 with a CCC glider, and a B glider is minus 0.6, 0.7, and I say, what the fuck, these guys are faking their turning thermals, but they're not. And I thought I didn't know what I was doing. I really didn't know what I was doing. So the big gliders cannot float around these big circles as long as the
Well,
B's and
unfortunately, you have to. Unfortunately, you have to, because unless you've got a much better
I
plan.
think it's better to be farther away trying to get high, and even if you're 1 minute behind, because what happened to me all these 3 times, I was well positioned. I started with the good gliders 200 meters below them, and 2 minutes before I was with them,
That's
thinking I'm this super guy, and
that's just unfortunately the reality of the performance of your glider. So
Yeah, it's got maybe it's good to think about there are multiple races on that day.
Correct.
And if you can be aware of
Other-
the 10, 15 other gliders or
Yeah.
20 gliders in your category, that's who you're racing with, and that's who you want to work with.
So I want to say just 2 more things, and we're going to really stop this here. So if you find yourself alone, then of course, what do you do? Then you need even more of a plan, because it's quite easy, us who know about thermal and competition flying, have it easy. We just join the gaggle and we stay with the gaggle, hopefully, all the way towards the goal. And if you do find yourself alone, you have to make a plan. You have to find a plan. And what you do is you try and find other people that you're going to finally kind of join to, if you can. If you can't, and it's showing you that you have to go in this direction, and the wind is blowing in this direction, you're doing quite well going that way, and let's say the wind is blowing, okay, it's running parallel with this stage here, the wind, and this is the direction you want to be going in. That's quite good, because you're going cross downwind, okay? And in that way, you're probably going to find a thermal best. Now you're sinking. You start to find a little bit of climb. What do? You start to turn slowly into wind. Lightly, as I said, on the back rises. And you start to form. If there's any chance of a thermal, it's probably going to be there. If it's not, and you really start feeling like you're sinking again, you turn right and you pass your trail track again. And there, if there's something, it's that's it. If it's not, you go again on your line and you carry on towards your line. If you turn into wind and it starts to get better and better and better, and suddenly it's really good, you're thermaling, right? Okay? So the more that you are sinking, the more you want to be going downwind with the wind. And the more that it starts to feel positive, the more you want to test it into wind. And that's my only very simple, small advice towards you guys.
Don't just follow course line.
Don't just follow.
If you're flying, if you're on your own, you're flying XC. So you're looking,
Exactly.
you're flying, you've got wind assisted, but you're also looking at clouds, you're looking at towns, you're looking at heat sources, you're looking at all sorts of triggers, fields, water, green, all these things that you can plan where you're going. You don't have to follow a straight line. You keep working over towards something or other you see in the distance, towards possible triggers. You increase your odds of finding something. If you just blunder down, yes, you'll find something, but it might not be as quick as if you search it out.
Absolutely. I can't agree with you more, and I go against what I've just said now. You don't just go in the direction of the course line and straight downwind. You are doing the world's most important word in our sport, observation. And I learned that word, observation. It came to me, although it was very clear to me, I've been naturally observing, but I've been much more conscious of observing things since I did a series of podcasts in 2020. If you guys want to learn something about paragliding, you can join my podcast. They're completely for free. You'll find them on Spotify or on Google or on whatever. They are called Staying Alive in Paragliding. You put my name in, Stef Juncker, and you will find it. And there are 50 podcasts there. I realized that I know an enormous amount of people around the world, from Robbie Whittle, who was a world hang gliding champion, then he became world paragliding champion, and now for kicks he races on the Isle of Man TT because he needs a bit more adrenaline kind of stuff. And from Torsten Siegel, Honorin, Amar, Russell Ogden, there were a lot of people that I podcasted, and each one has a description under it. You can go and listen to them. The last one I did was a really, really good one for basic pilots, so the number 50. But you can go and have a look at those. Staying Alive in Paragliding, it's called. You can check that out and you can see. Observation is the word I learned from hearing this from a lot of those pilots, those really good pilots. And those pilots told me, you need to be looking at all sorts of things. And I said a little bit earlier, I'm going to talk to you guys about signs. Signs are everything. On the day that I was 7th at goal, 2 days ago, whatever it was, yes, 2 days ago, just before the goal, we were going for our last turn point and we had to get to goal. And a lot of guys were just going, including one red Zeno 2, and he was just going extremely low and he left the thermal when it was, I don't know why he left the thermal. He was sniffing the goal and thought he must go. So he just went and he got really low, and then the others followed and they were all going low. But a little bit of our track and into wind, when our turn point was there, was a lot of guys climbing in a beautiful cloud. It's only evident for me that you make a small detour, go to massive lift, and be sure to get to goal. That's when I got the 460 extra meters to get to goal. And the others who finally did follow me, and I'm not saying I was the best, I just made a very good move on that time. It was an obvious move, but the observation of seeing a bunch of guys going up and slightly going off track, we don't want to go off track because our instrument's saying, go that way, and you are fixed up, fuck, I'm going that way. But sometimes to go this way and to really crank it out is a it's like you really have to do that. It's like an evident thing. So do those things, observe. When you see guys thermaling, and they're thermaling lightly, and a stork, you know the big birds that bring the babies, those big birds know much more about thermaling than us. They go from Africa to Europe every year, and they do that. That's in their nature. We are joking that we think we can fly. Okay, we are good. So I saw a stork. I go towards a stork. He knows much, and I find a strong thermal. And the next thing, the other guys are still, and then they come over, and I have a hell of an advantage on them. So use the signs. If you see swallows, the little small birds, they are showing you where it's going up. If you see some bit of dust or a straw, that's a good chance that that's a butterfly, one butterfly, and don't look at anything else except that butterfly. Watch that butterfly and keep that butterfly right there when you're thermaling around. Just keep looking at the butterfly. Don't look at your instruments. Don't look at anything else. If you're alone, and you're looking just at where the butterfly is, he's going to show you where the good thermal is, for sure.
Grass seed, whatever.
Anything
floating.
Anything that's going, there's a good chance. If you see a plastic bag, okay, they come off rubbish dumps from good thermals. There's often good thermals off rubbish dumps. You see the plastic bag, go to the plastic bag. Try and catch it while you're thermaling. Okay, you're competing, so you shouldn't play games, but you should really try to use all the signs, all the observation.
And if you see a good thermal, get to it as quickly as you can.
Exactly. It's a point that I didn't say, that I meant to say a little bit earlier. You're on your speed bar all the way until you're into good climb. The big mistake of beginner pilots is that they think, oh, I'm going to arrive at this thermal sometime soon. They come off their speed bar, they come onto their brakes, but they are still sinking. Okay? If you learn another thing from Tim and I here today, you learn that you stay on your speed bar all the way until you're properly climbing. Start climbing on your speed bar. Then you're off your bar and strongly onto your brakes. And then you decide which way you're turning. You know it in advance. Have a plan. And as Mark Watts says, don't waste time. Okay? A very fine line between racing and making it to goal, which is your bigger point than racing. Don't try and race others and say, okay, fuck you guys, I'm 154 Ks, I'm at 151 like I did. Yo-yo between two, you've landed. And you're really, that night I didn't sleep well, I was really beating myself up. So just do this in a slow way. There's a lot to learn, never stop learning, and just go for it, guys, and enjoy. Any last questions or comments or anything you want to say? Great. Let's go flying.
Sweet.
Thanks, guys. Thanks very much for attending for me. Thanks to Team Australia for coming and supporting and adding some comments. That was great. And thanks to all of you for being here.
Thank you.
For me, it's a great love to encourage us to carry on growing our sport and seeing more and more people coming into competition flying. A few years ago, it looked like competition flying was a slowly dying thing. But I can see now, in the last 2-3 years since COVID, it's definitely not. So go to a lot of competitions. Check your competitions, see your national competitions. Smaller competitions are just as fun. I went to the Icelandic national competition. There was just 17 pilots there. I had a lot of fun. As I said, it's the plastic cup. Don't go and chase too much the world rankings and the PWCs. It's really for your name on the list. I'm sure you guys can't name the top 10 pilots in the world. I can't. I don't give a rat's ass who they are. We all shit the same color. I don't think anyone needs to think that they're better than someone else. So my encourage to you is stay humble, enjoy our sport, go to all competitions, create competitions yourselves, make it all happen, but just be part of it. You know, that's my last word here. Great, guys.
Thank you.